and a so I'm an attorney and a adjunct faculty member at University of Western States up there in Portland. So I teach healthcare law, ethics, and bioethics, and so the rights and the wrongs of science. And That's a fun one. That's kind of why I teach, is so I can teach that particular seminar, which starts on Monday actually. But other than that, 80% of my time is spent as an attorney. I live in eastern Utah, in my hometown of Price. Um, I lived in the Portland area. Me and my wife and kids lived up there for 5.5, 6 years. We moved up to Salem for me to go to law school, and then we stuck around, lived in Sherwood. So I'm looking at that Tualatin Center there, and I'm feeling a little homesick for it because it was just around the corner there, and I drove past it every single day on my way into work. So that's my connection to NARG is that I became aware of it after I graduated and needed to fill my time because apparently when you're done with graduate school, there's all this mysterious thing in the ether called free time, and so I instantly hooked up with NARG, and it was pandemic time, so it was fun to kind of be able to do this online and learn how to use Zoom a little bit better. Um, and I was only able to do, I believe, one field trip, and actually we'll cover that. So I'm going to share my screen here. Let's see. Is that working? All right. So I started to make a PowerPoint, and when I was telling my daughter what I was doing, she kind of slapped her forehead and said, "Oh yeah, PowerPoint, you were born in the 1900s, huh?" Which hurt my feelings. So I downloaded Canva, which was, I mean, really snarky of her. We were standing in a line in Disney World. I mean, how ungrateful she had to be at that point to hurt me like that. But so I'm using Canva, and so hopefully it works. If not, someone chime in. A few of these, I pulled some videos straight from my Instagram account. Some of them have sound, some of them don't. If you want to see the full quality, just look up my Instagram, I guess. But I want to talk about the Cretaceous era fossils that I find over here in eastern Utah, primarily in Carbon and Emery County. I grew up here, and so and I've been a rock hound. I mean, I got the bug, gosh, fourth grade. So what are you, 10 years old? And I got bit, and I never really shook it. And I mean, it was easy to get bit. I live on the Colorado Plateau in a rural town. I live at the top part of my little town, and you look across the street, and there's the other side of, the other houses. But behind those houses was just desert, the high desert that we live in up here. And there just happened to be, we called it the Dirt Hills. It was my 100-acre wood. And out there was just happened to be an exposure of the Farron sandstone. So I'd find primarily, clams, different shell fossils in the area. And so it just was a good incubator for my curiosity. And so when we moved back, I've spent a lot of time out there. And we moved back to Price about a year ago, a little more than a year ago. So everything I'm going to show you here, I'm pretty sure are things I found within the last year exclusively. So I'm not going to show you the stuff I found on the other parts of the state, like in the Cambrian area over by Delta with my trilobites and stuff. I have plenty of those, but we're just going to stick to the stuff I've been finding around here, leading up to the my big discovery back in October that I'll cover at the end of this. So if I'm a little familiar, this is me on our NARG expedition to Paulina Itzy area. This is May of, I believe, 22. And this is me. That's the Brisbois member exposure where Bernie, is it Bernie? The thalattosaur that Greg and I believe his daughters found. So we were at that road cut right there and poking around. And I believe it was on our way back to just leave. Tara was just kind of standing there on top of this rock. And I was like, I'm going to flip that over when she gets off of it. And when she did, I flipped it over, and when you see Greg's eyes light up, you get excited. And so that's one of my favorite fossils, is actually on my display case down at my law practice in the lobby. And that's just a big old plate of belemnites I found in that Triassic era rock. So a favorite of mine, and there's about 20 or so belemnites on there. And that was a fun trip. That morning at sunrise, Greg and I did a little covert expedition into some Permian rock and found some really cool fossils in that morning as well. So that was a fun memory. So that was my extent of field trips with NARG. So if you want to know, my family life, this is us in Disney World at the dinosaur ride in the front row. And two of my family members enjoy dinosaurs, and two of my family members do not. And I'm going to leave it up to you to guess which is which. When a Carnotaurus is trying to eat us, I guess my wife and son have the appropriate reaction, while me and my daughter are maybe a little too excited to have the opportunity to be digested by a Cretaceous dinosaur. So this is where I am right now. This is in my basement, my workshop. My wife, probably thinks it's the menagerie of a serial killer, but this is where I do most of my fossil prep. I do my painting down here. I'll show a few of my fossil paintings at some point during this slideshow. This is where the staging area for when things are finished before they end up either as gifts to other people or as display pieces in my office or elsewhere. I also have been decorating. In our town, we do a Christmas tree regalia where local businesses will donate a decorated artificial tree with some theme, and then they'll be auctioned off, and then the money goes to a local charity. So I did one called a Cretaceous Christmas this last year, where I just used a bunch of my spare fossils, which, as you can see, I have some. And I made ornaments out of them and a lot of the gems and crystals I found. And it went over really well. And so I've been planning next year's. So these are the primary layers that I find things in. So mostly it's going to be the Manco shell, which specifically we're going to talk about the Emery and Farron sandstone. The Tanunk is, probably the most prolific exposure that I walk through. The Juana Lopez is where I find a lot of my pycnodont and chondrichthyon teeth, private property, of course. And then I'll spend just one quick little blurb talking about the North Horn Formation, which is neat because the difference in elevation between the North Horn and the Mancos, where I find a lot of my stuff, it's about a mile difference. The fossils I find in the North Horn are a little over 10,000 feet above sea level, while I'm sitting around 5,000 to 6,000 feet here in my house. So big changes. Moving back here from the Pacific Northwest, I don't know if my lungs have fully acclimated. There's no oxygen up here, and which is fun when you're carrying a 100-pound backpack full of rocks in the high desert when it's 105 degrees. The Utah Geological Survey on Facebook posted this picture today. And I'm actually going to show you two drone videos I took from this vantage point. This is at the Wedge on the San Rafael Swell. If you've heard of the San Rafael Swell, you really should come visit it. If you are a federal employee who has the ears of the president who can make designations like national parks, you are not invited. I don't want this to be a national park. This is a secret. But the San Rafael Swell is, 30 minutes. And most of these localities I'm going to show you are within 30 minutes of where I'm sitting right now. But just the exposures you can see from here, it's just breathtaking here. And so this is the Little Grand Canyon as viewed from what's called the Wedge. I did hear that a gentleman say he liked hunting rock hounding in New Mexico. And you mentioned that, it's nice not to have black bears after you. But I'll tell you what, I'll take a black bear any day. I've never been bugged by a black bear, but rattlesnakes trouble me. And so if you're out this way, you can relax on the black bears a little bit, even though we do have them. But snakes are a little less friendly. And so just to give you an idea, these are just some pictures taken of me and some by me throughout the swell in these areas. And so we're looking here near Buckhorn Draw. This is me and Dad. Dad was it has been more often than not my companion out there. If I'm not alone, I'm with him. And this is us out in the swell. This is called Black Box Canyon. It is spooky. I'm going to send a drone down there one time. And so if you want to see what that looks like, follow me on Instagram and you'll see it eventually. But it's, not terribly forgiving terrain. There's a lot of dead things out there. Some, by the elements. Some, you can see that poor coyote has a mysterious round bullet-shaped hole in its head. So there are a lot of hazards out there, whether they be natural or man-made. On the left here is at about 10,000 feet on Gentry Mountain in northern Emery County, about 30 minutes south of here. And so about 10,000 feet, we watched the earlier eclipse this year or last year. We were up there for that. But this is me and Dad go up here and collect firewood frequently. And there's a good exposure here in the North Horn Formation, and right below me, actually, the Blackhawk Formation. And then further out on the swell on the right, that's me standing on Cedar Mountain, which is about 7,000 feet up, rather high. And Cedar Mountain's pretty neat, but I'm looking south here across the swell. Right below me is the old Spanish Trail, where the first Spanish explorers came into Utah. And if you look in the far distance, over 100 something miles away, those are the Henry Mountains. So Utah's one of Utah's 2 wild buffalo herds lives down there. Last year was a good water year for us. We've been in a mega drought for a couple decades, and so we finally got good coverage last year, and the desert rewarded us. So this was my scene throughout, up through July. It was just breathtaking out there. So let's start some videos. So that was from the vantage point of Cedar Mountain looking out. So from that picture you just saw before, that was actually taken the same day with me flying my drone around. This next one, I believe the next 2 are taken at the Wedge, which is in the distance from that last video. And so you'll see both vantage points of the Wedge looking out and looking back. I live in such a cool place. So yeah, if you end up like looking me up on Instagram or something, this is 90% of my feed is me just out here exploring with Dad. And you'll see, if you notice in that last video with this view, there was only one vehicle in that picture, and that was our truck. And so it is pristine, and you can be in solitude. So the stuff I really came across this year, so primarily ammonites. That's usually when I go out looking for stuff, that's what I'm looking at. For some reason, the text at the bottom did not delete. And so that was I don't know who Henrietta is, other than that's the sample text that came with the slideshow. So thank you, Henrietta. And so there's ammonites. There's a handful of species that I commonly find here. Then there's also these chondrichthyan and osteotherian teeth. Primarily the shark teeth I find. My favorite are this pictured here. I love these Tychodus teeth, big ammonite munching sharks. I found about 24 of those in the last year or so. As you can see, they're quite large. Really make your day when you stumble upon them. But there's a handful of other species that I found as well that are just breathtaking. Then the snails and clams and oysters I find are abundant. I'm very particular about the ones I bring home now because there's just so many of them. But the one picture there, and I'll talk about that, that's one from the North Horn Formation that I was really excited about. And then finally, we'll talk about my big discovery in October, which was a plesiosaur here, 20-something minutes from my front door. And so that was an exciting thing, and I got a flex on a few federal officers on that one too. So here's a video of my last year. It was set to some Star Wars music, so just imagine how epic this would be to the John Williams fanfare. But it did not save for whatever reason with the video. But yeah, spent a lot of the time earlier last year snowshoeing to get to the spots. That's good exposure to the Tanunkin Farron sandstone. Some Torito wood too, which is very uncommon here. I had never actually even heard of it being found over here until I stumbled upon a good pocket of it. Some of those videos I took, I don't think my wife knows exactly how steep that cliff was and how I should not have been on it. Yeah, I almost fell right there. And that's looking out towards Flat Top Mountain in the center, and to the right is Cedar Mountain. And in between right in there is Jurassic National Monument, actually. So the Cleveland Lloyd Dinosaur Quarry is within that frame shot. And so okay, too loud. So yeah, some of those are pulled for Instagram. So like I said, sometimes the music came with it. So the most common ammonite I'm finding out there are these Pranocyclus. And these are I say those common I find. From the concretions I break open, maybe 1 in every 20 will have an ammonite that doesn't just disintegrate when you open it up. So I showed the video of before and after there at the start of this. It just kind of popped open. And so this is that ammonite right there. I'm probably need to show you those things actually after I stop sharing my screen. But some of them turned out, really nice. And most of my really nice specimens are down in my display cases at my practice. Here's another good picture. This on the left, actually, this bigger one, the Pranocyclus, that my dad found that one, and it broke into about 3 pieces over 2 sections of that rock when we broke it open. And so when I got it home a couple weeks ago, it took me a minute to get that thing extracted and put back together. And then I just gooed on put some sticky, what's that stuff called? Mounting putty next to it, and stuck a nice placenta ceres dad found that day too. Let's go to the next slide. There you go. So they can, the quality really does vary. Some of them are, pretty rough shape, while some of them come out really nice. And then on here on the right, you can see, that's just a section there. These buggers can get big. The biggest one I've seen intact is down here at our prehistoric museum, part of Utah State University Eastern. And it's about, a little under 2 feet wide. It's quite large. I found individual sections of an ammonite that would match that size, but I have never found one in a complete that size. That's a bucket list find. So, you can see that those vary in size. These are placentaceras, and so you can say placenti, smooth head. I think it's that would translates out to, and they can really vary in size from those itty bitty ones to. I mean, here on the right, here's a segment of a rather large one. I'd really wish I could find the other half to that one, but those are really fun to find, but extremely hard to find complete. Because they tend to be a little bit more fragile. So that display on the right is one I have up on a wall in my practice. And once again, these are all ones I have found this year. That center one was a cool find that was sticking as part of a much larger concretion that was, I mean, about the size of a car. And so that took a minute to get out. And so they can definitely vary in their quality and their size. But those are a favorite to find. As far as the snails go, essentially, and I'll probably butcher some pronunciations. We see these gyrodes, which are the stubbier little buggers on the top left there. That's by far the biggest one I've ever seen. Is that one I came across last fall? Might have even been December. On the right, we see those rostolite. And those are fairly common, but can vary in quality to really nice to just, I mean, throw in the garden bed to decorate it. On the bottom left there, that is from the North Horn Formation. I was just walking back to the truck, and you find hematite, those pseudomorph hematite, which is cool on its own, but you see those little pieces here and there. But I looked down and I said, man, that is an interesting shape. And picked it up, and we find these snail fossils up there quite frequently. I go up and that's what I look for when I'm up there. And that turned out to be a snail that somehow became formed with some hematite there, which was neat enough. And I thought, wow, once in a lifetime find. Until we were up cutting some firewood a few months later, and I was just kind of dinking around trying to catch my breath because 10,000 feet is rough on anyone. And I found a second one of even better quality, and that is so now I have two of these 1 in a million finds, which is pretty neat to have on my display table here at home. As far as our kind of mollusk group, we have our oysters, we have pinna shells. You can see in the background of the left image and on the right image, the one on the left. I'll show a few of those when I exit the slideshow here. You see these clams and oysters, they can really get quite large. That one on the right's, somewhere between a baseball and a softball in size. The other ones that are more common I like to find are these pycnodont oysters. Confusing name because there's also the pycnodont teeth of those Cretaceous fish. But these are the species of clams and oysters I've been able to identify. There are several other that I have yet to be able to really figure out what they are yet, but that'll come in time. I've got to find a few more papers. And here's another image. Those are those pycnodont oysters on the left, and on the right, there's just shows you kind of a classification in size from how small these little buggers can be to just how big they are. They're the more common thing you'll find out there, but sometimes they really knock your socks off. There's a good amount of fossilized wood out there. These really, that one on the left is a really well formed. I mean, it looks like a modern era stick. It looks like a piece of wood from right now. That was really neat. And then I found these big, the only images I have here are the small ones, but I have really big pieces out on my porch, actually, of this teredo wood, which I never even heard of being found around here. And you can see how carboniferous that is. I mean, that is, frankly, I bet if I took a lighter to that, it might actually burn. I live in Carbon County. carbon isn't because, we're big fans of carbon fiber. It's because we mine coal here. Well, we used to. We don't do that anymore. But that was what built this county. So there's a lot of coal here. And so it was neat to see that. And those are pretty neat pieces of teredo wood, and not something I'm used to finding. There's other things that pop up here. We find these awfully cool looking calcite things. I didn't even know what to classify those as, and they come in all sorts of colors. They actually kind of look like gastroliths when you see them. In the middle there, we see these cool gypsum and selenite crystals. We call that feather gypsum, and it can come. I got a few pieces I'll show you here that are just really cool. And then other rocks like that one on the right, I call that the eye of the eye of Sauron, the all-seeing eye. So apparently Mordor is here too. I found that just outside the gates of Jurassic National Monument, actually, last spring. And so, I mean, you can just see we get these cannonball concretions that got nothing in them, sometimes some calcite in them. This one I grabbed because I thought it looked like mercury. And so I don't have the heart to break that one open. But I have broken some open, and it's just not worth your time. They're prettier whole. But there's just so much out there. Here's a video of me finding a Tychotus tooth. Didn't set that up or anything. I did see it, and then I took a video of me picking it up, and I didn't pick it up before. But maybe I'll play that again so you can just kind of see this is on a mineral lease. There's a lot of gas wells out here. So let's play that one again. But you can just kind of see that. It's just breathtaking scenery. But yeah, they're hidden in there. And if you're not looking for them, you're not going to see them. Yeah, those are just stunning teeth. You find them. It just makes your whole day. So these are the species of shark and fish I have been able to ID my teeth as. There are several I have not been able to ID, especially the ones that kind of look like human teeth that come from those weird looking like either puffer fish or butterfly fish. They freak me out, but they're awfully cool to see. So the Tychotus, like I said, Squalocorax, very, everyone that collects shark teeth, that's kind of the first shark you learn other than maybe the Megalodon, but I don't think I'm finding Megalodon teeth here. Scapanorhynchus, and so that's like the one on the bottom right. Those goblin shark, mean looking buggers. They're really pokey. Tychotrigon, especially Tychotrigon triangularis, another cool ray fin shark that we find teeth for. Leptostyrax, another one of those pointy buggers. And Codus, Ototus, all the funny names. And then a lot of these barrel teeth, these little, I've heard them described as drum teeth by local indigenous people. I imagine they probably strung them on instruments. I'm not sure. I can ask. But they're barrel teeth, so they're little round, like little buttons. And I mean, I have those by the thousands. So here's a close-up image. I really like finding those barrel teeth, but like the plates. And so finding those big long plate ones are awfully neat to see too. So, and the quality varies. Sometimes you find them with root attached, but this center image where you're seeing mostly my hand with all like the Squalocorax teeth and the Tychotus tooth, that top right one, I have absolutely no idea what that would belong to right there. And it's a rounder tooth. It's not sharp at all. So probably some kind of fish. And they're just, I mean, I'm sure a lot of these are not classified yet in any journal. So it's really neat to come across these. Now, the way I find these, and remember, for any BLM staff in the room here, these, if you're going to collect vertebrate fossils, it needs to be on private land. And so what you do here is you find an anthill that needs to be removed in that right layer. And so you scoop up the anthill. Got a 5-gallon bucket right here. And if you want to teach your neurodivergent kids to hyperfocus, this is a good way to do it. I put it in a little plate, I gold pan it around, and then you pick through them. And you figure out, you find stuff. You don't only find teeth. I have found little bones. I have found little itty bitty vertebra. You find little garnets. You find a lot of dead bug pieces. little meteorites, all sorts of cool stuff you find in these little ant hills as you pick apart their little lives. And you can see how tiny these teeth can get. And I wanted to give a good vantage point of one. So that far right picture, I mean, there is a tooth in my hand, right dead center there. And so they get, I mean, unbelievably small, which just blows my mind. It makes me love fossils on them more. That's something that tiny can survive in a pristine condition for about 95 million years. It's staggering, and how people don't think fossils are cool, I don't understand, because that's the most amazing thing you may ever see in your life, other than the birth of your children. I get it. So I mean, once you collect all these stinking teeth, they pile up, and so I spent a long time cataloging these little stinkers, and it's fun. But at one point, I kind of ended up with a big catalog of jars of teeth, and I wanted to do something with them because I still enjoy sorting through and finding more, and I'm going to run out of room. And so I started making art with them. So that's my most recent painting I did, and my favorite. It's a lot smaller. The first one I did was on a 2 foot by 2 foot canvas of a Squalocorax, and it took forever to glue those stinking little teeth on there. And so I have learned and I've adjusted my game to make these smaller ones, and I think these smaller ones are way cooler. So that's what I've been doing with these teeth is making these paintings. And I mean, I mean, the teeth are cool in that one, but I was really happy with that ammonite I did. Uh, so I've done 3 paintings so far, and I have plans for more when I find time to do them. But that top left one is that massive monstrosity I made. I should count how many teeth there are, but I'm positive it's over 1,000, and that took last summer. That's the time frame I'm going to give on that. I see something in the chat. Yeah, just talking about Tychodus being an interesting shark. Yeah, and those Tychodus teeth are just so cool. Oh, click. So let's talk about the big boy. I am the luckiest son of a gun that's ever done anything in his life. Everything that's come my way has been as a result of either privilege or luck. I'm sure of it. But so I've got a big family. My dad's older brother is a guy named Scott Woodward. He's a geneticist. He's smattering appearances on Discovery Channel, The View, all sorts of stuff. He did the DNA on the parchment for the Dead Sea Scrolls, on the mummies. So I mean, the guy's well known in the scientific community, and so he's got a couple kids who have kids of their own, and they've asked me, hey, my kids are interested in fossils. Can you take us out? And so last October, when the first weekend or two, Michael Scott's second youngest son, Michael, who's just a couple years older than me, asked if he could bring a couple of his kids down to poke around, if I could guide him on to find some fossils, which I'm always excited to take kids out because kids rock, especially when they like dinosaurs. So I took them out, found some ammonites and some really good rostolite snails for them, and set them up pretty good. But they had to leave around lunchtime. And so they packed up and headed up back north up to Provo, where they live. And me and Dad weren't ready to go home yet. So there's this spot about, I don't know, a quarter mile away from the mesa where we were searching. I said, I want to go poke around over, this flat area where these kind of alkali flats are. So we just drove, around the corner, parked the truck, and hopped out and looked around and did about a half-mile loop, and was heading back to the truck. And we're, a couple 100 yards from the road. And I look down and I see these two specimens that I'm holding in the right picture there, sitting in this little ditch that you see on the left. And I look at them and I thought, man, this is pretty cool looking wood. I saw like the beetle crawl on the top of them, which you see in normal wood. And because I'm an idiot, I thought that's all, I thought, yeah, let's just put these in my pocket and let's go home. So I picked those up and I found a dozen and a half or so more, just little pieces that looked like that too. So I put them in my bag, my nice little, I keep a little satchel on my hip where I put things that are, a little more fragile in. And I went home and I sat down here at my workbench where I'm sitting right now, and I looked at them and I looked at them and I said, okay, I'm going to lick them. And if you know how to check for bone, that's kind of what you do, right? And I licked them and they stuck to my tongue and I went, shoot, I got bone here. And so I threw it up online real quick in the fossil forum on Facebook. I said, hey folks, help an idiot out here. Do I have bone? And the learned community got back to me saying, hey, you dummy, you got bone there. And I said, okay. So I called up my buddy Josh Lively. He's a paleontologist here for Utah State University Eastern at our museum. I said, Josh, I got something for you. And so I ran it down to the museum. I gave him all I had. I gave him the whole thing. And he's like, oh, yeah, that looks pretty cool. It kind of looks like a marine reptile to me. And I said, like, even cooler. And we made a plan to go out and I could show him where I found it. We could do a little digging. Between then and the dig, I'm sitting at my desk in my practice, and in walks 3 uniformed federal agents. Now, I don't do a lot of criminal defense, but I always enjoy discussing things with law enforcement at work. And so I said, gentlemen, have a seat. And they kind of walked in with a little swagger, then looked, into my office and saw the law diplomas and went, oh, crap, a lawyer. And their shoulders sunk. And apparently someone on the fossil forum had reported me to the feds, and as you should. Since that, a few weeks prior, I don't know if you saw this in the news, there was a big bust down in Moab, which is a little south of here. I have a sister who lives down there, where someone, a few individuals, actually connected to someone in Oregon too, were selling vertebrate fossils, which, it's pretty sleazy stuff. And so they said, we've got to follow up on everything now. And so we had a really good chat. They gave me their cards, good guys. But they wanted to make sure I had done everything right, which is I gave them over to the museum, which I had. But it was fun. Gave Josh a good laugh. But me and Josh were able to go out to the spot. I got that since I discovered it. I got the my initials as the designation, and we dug around. We found maybe another dozen or two more of little pieces, including a little looked like kind of like a caudal vertebra. But other than that, we dug around and we didn't find anything else. So we were afraid that maybe was it. We're maybe a few centuries or maybe a millennia too late. Or maybe it's even deeper. We're not sure, but we'll give it a couple of years to erode some more and maybe go back. But that's all I heard for about 2 or 3 months or so. And so on the left there, I put down my rock hammer, which I almost never use. I use a 6-pound sledgehammer to get through my concretions out there, named Mary for Mary Anning. Mary's out in my truck. But you can see here's the center picture is what I brought home. On the right is everything that me and Josh grabbed and took to the museum, and then they did their. Oh, I remember my intro to museum class where we learned how to use a quill to do that. But that's all I heard about it for several months. And then I got these pictures several weeks ago here, I think in February or so, maybe. Yeah, I think it's February. I got these pictures from Josh one morning about 6 in.the.morning with a bunch of, capitalized words and exclamation points. So I adjusted my eyes and they put these together and looks like it's a propodile of a plesiosaur. So the top part of that flipper area. This is actually a picture he sent me with a little line he drew in there. And so this is the section of a plesiosaur that we found that has not been found in this area. And so a marine reptile is a big deal. And so got really excited that we have something right here in our back door, in our backyard, excuse me, that's of that quality and that layer is just exposed for, I mean, at least 1 or 2 square miles right there. And so I have lots of plans to just kind of go poke around a little bit and know that if I see something, to take a picture, drop a pin, and leave, not to take it home in my stupid pocket. But there are also things I have no stinking idea what I have found, and I haven't got a clear answer yet. So on the left there, no idea, never got a clear answer what the heck that thing is. On the right here, I have it right here in front of me. I've got a couple paleontologists fighting each other over what that might be right now. Some say a numalite, which the issue is that those rings are not concentric. They're not connected at all. They're not a spiral. They're individual layers like tree rings. And this would be way older than any numalite that's been found, and it would be the first one that's ever been found over here. So that's the argument on one end. The other end is I mean, it doesn't, if you squint, it looks like a shark vertebrae, right? But other than that, unless it's super worn, it doesn't really match either. So I'm going to take that down to the museum next week when we have our Utah Friends of Paleontology meeting, and Josh wants to keep it down there until he can figure out what the heck that thing is. So I mean, I have, those are the two things I have on hand right here that I know I don't know what they are, but it's not necessarily everything that's unidentified in this workshop down here. So yeah, look at that. Thank you for a new business opportunity. Because I'm born in the 1900s, like my daughter says, I didn't know how to use Canva. So I'm going to stop share and pin my face up there, and just kind of share a few of these things up close so you can get a better view of them. So that's one of these Prionocyclus ammonites. This was within one of those round concretions that I smashed open with Mary. And then this one I didn't have to piece back together, but it was still pretty covered in sandstone. So I don't have my air scribe or anything. And so what I use is these nice little screwdrivers, and my little nail hammer is what I usually use to do my preps right now. I do have my Dremels and stuff, but I don't like, I have a fear of asbestos. I'm an attorney. Asbestos is like half my life, right? And so fine particulates I like breathing in. But some of these, I mean, so this is what that feather gypsum we talked about. See if we can get a better, see if we can figure that out. But that is one that we stumbled on the spot. Actually, my dad kind of, whoa, when he said, I hear that, I run up to where he's at, and that's where we found these in one really particularly good spot. And so these are all over the place. Gypsum, this is what they make plaster of Paris out of. That there's plenty of mining claims dating back over a century here where that's what they would go collect this to make plaster. But these ammonites that come in all sorts of conditions and states, and there gets to a point where I just stop prepping them because I don't want to bust it up anymore. Let's see, I said I'd show you. This is one of those hematite. This is that second hematite snail I found on top of Gentry Mountain. And this is just a general piece that you would find up there. But can't really do it justice over Zoom too much. But hematite, it's nice and heavy. Other things you can find up in the North Horn are things like this. You find these I'm losing the word here, corals that are they feel like pumice. And then these are down on the swell you find, so that's golden selenite. And there's a few mining claims down there where you find, I mean, one's the size of your thigh. And then these pycnodontine oysters can get actually really cool. And what's fun about these is, it's never just one fossil. There's always something extra. And so I like showing how large these things can get. This is the largest full one I found that isn't just smashed to pieces, but this is definitely not the biggest, one that's out there. So it's every time you go out there, it's something new. There's something exciting that you discover. You bust open a rock, and some creature that has been in darkness for nearly 100 million years is reborn into the world through your hand, and you're the first one that gets to see it. And it'd be kind of neat. I mean, if whether, there's, I don't know if I'm an animist or not, but if these things do have some kind of spirit or personality, if I was stuck in rock for 100 million years and the first person that saw me, the first emotion I felt off of someone else was that level of excitement, I'd be pretty happy. Yeah, it's just the best place to live. And then, I showed you a bigger ammonite, same species, and these things can get a lot smaller as well. I've got a million things I could keep you here for 10 hours. But if there's any questions anyone has, I'd be happy to answer them. I know it's been on one of the email chains at least that someone's going to come out here at the end of the month that wants to be shown around. If you ever find yourself down here, send me a message. We'll go out. We'll go find some rocks. Since you don't live here, I'll take you to my spots. I don't have to worry about a local finding it and having to bury him out there. But I will show you. This is the smallest clam I have found. That's a full intact clam.
Wow. Yep. Extreme micro collecting.
Yeah, those teeth really had me or bit me hard. And then that's a Calignonecerus vulgari ammonite, but it is in a state, so I'm gonna have to use some putty and recreate some of that to make it full again.
Actually, it looks pretty
Kind of cool the way it is.
Yeah, so some of them do. They are kind of cool the way they are. I do have one that has the complete center missing, and I left it that way because I thought it looked kind of cool. But yeah, I got this jar. That's all broken teeth that I just didn't want to catalog because they're broken.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know how my ADHD manifests? Well, here we are.
Some of us can associate.
And during the day, I cosplay as a lawyer.
That's awesome. Questions? Anybody have a question for Ben?
I actually have a comment. So the fossil you said that could be nummulitis. Yes. So I would argue that actually it's a lot larger than the nummulites I've seen. But although yes, they are spiral, you would get concentricism or those rings like that, depending on the section and how it's being cut through. But that is a lot larger. That is, I think, a little too large to be a nummulites, even though the nummulites are large for a single cell organism. So yeah, I now that I see it, I don't know what it is, but I will say that depending on how you section it, can affect how those rings look.
Have you completely ruled out shark? Because that really does look like it from here.
No, that's kind of what Josh at the museum is leaning towards, is a really kind of decayed vertebra, which once again, for any of the BLM people here, I'm taking it to the museum. It's going there. No, I sympathize with their dang job. But yeah, that's just one that I like it when I text those things to Josh, because I know it just drives him nuts, because he just wants, he wants to know. So yeah. Oh, I was gonna show, these are complete pinna shells that you find. In some spots they're rather common, but you can see you have to put them back together frequently. This is my favorite one because there's still a lot of the actual shell still attached. So they come in all shapes and sizes, but and these are the ones, when my nieces, 6, 7, 8, 10-year-old nieces and nephews come by, they go, "What are those?" I go, "Oh, they're T-Rex teeth," just to to seem a little cooler to them, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, they these are a lot of fun to find. But usually they take a little Gorilla Glue to make whole again.
Really nice. It's cool.
So, yeah, that covers just most of what I find, but there's always stuff to be prepped in here. There's always stuff to be cataloged, and if I'm ever bored, I have a big old bucket of sand, anthill sand to go through. So someone asked if I knew Eric Funk. I don't know Eric Funk. I do know the last name though. There's a lot of funky people around here. So my last name is Woodward. There's been a Woodward in this valley for 154 years. So my 3 times great grandpa led the wagon train down Huntington Canyon to settle the area. So my last name has been here, but me and Dad are the last ones. I've got 6 siblings and they took off. Yeah, and I got some stuff from NARG, that NARG field trip. That redstone back there is from that same spot near Paulina, but that's that Cretaceous stuff. It's got some leaves in it, a ginkgo leaf in it. And around here, Greg, if you're listening, I got a few of those Permian stones we found on those Christian fundamentalists' property in our covert mission. They're sitting around here. They had really cool crystals in them, and only Permian fossils I have.
He heard you.
He could deny it, but I thought it's one of my favorite memories, especially where he put all the big pieces in my backpack and then took off down the hill. I used to be young, but then my daughter said I was born in the 1900s, and I don't know what to think about myself anymore.
Right. Any other questions? Everybody's good here. Anybody else online? Thank you so much, Than, for sharing all that with us. There's a lot of people here that are in their minds right now thinking about a field trip down to Utah.
Oh, I know all the fun places to go, places to get lost, and I'll tell you, you'll go through the San Rafael Swell once with me, and it'll ruin national parks for you completely.
Well, I think we know how to get a hold of you online. If not, you might just send an email out. And we may have a few people heading south for the summer.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you look me up on social media, I go by Than Woodward. Than's my nickname. And I do that so like I was in a testy mediation today in a custody arrangement. I don't want people looking me up. I'm a nice lawyer. But yeah, so you look up Than Woodward, that's Facebook and Instagram, the only 2 things I have. And then I can send out my email to the group, but it's nwoodwardjd@gmail.com.
Okay. Thank you again so much. Appreciate the time on that.
Yeah. This was just extended show and tell for me.